Hello, everybody. This is Seferlis. I'm a news anchor and political editor for Antenna TV, and I'm super delighted to have today here with me four well-known people from the energy sector, and we will discuss everything pertaining to energy security and the role of connectivity. First of all, let me introduce you to the people standing on my left. I'll begin with Ms. Maria Rita Galli, the CEO of DESFA, which I've been waiting for a long time to meet and, by the way, have a chat on a panel. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Vladimir Malinov, Executive Director of Bulgartransgaz. Thank you also for being with us. Mr. Kostis Sifnaios, Managing Director of Gastrade. And Mr. Mehmet, I'll try to pronounce it, Öğütçü, right? Kind of. CEO, Global Resource Chair, London Energy Club. So we were having this discussion earlier with the Minister of Energy, and he was referring to this, breakthrough with Chevron with respect to the talks on exploring the area below Crete, and we will have a lot to talk about in the near future, I believe, before the year ends. So I would like to ask a comment from all of you. How do you see this development? Does it support the idea of bolstering energy security? Let's begin with you.
Thank you very much. I'm feeling home with it because this is my fourth participation in Delphi Forum in different capacities. Nevertheless, that driving to Delphi is not an easy task from Sofia. It took me 7 hours, but it's always good to be back home. It comes, because I also was following the ministerial panel a little bit earlier, and knowing that I've been in that capacity for the last 10 months as a caretaking Minister of Energy in Bulgaria. Of course, maybe I should start from looking on that question from the angle that regional cooperation is something very important. And we should build upon on a very good relationship between Bulgaria and Greece, and also with Turkey. I had the chance last week to meet in Baku my friend Minister Alparslan Bey in Baku. But we have the natural monopoly and natural geostrategic advantage of our region to increase the energy security of the whole region. Because following the recent development in the long-term policy of the US administration and new President Trump administration, and potential future cooperation on a very good trade solid ground between the United States and European Union and the countries on the European mainland, it's very strategic. Because energy resources is something which we need to secure on a long-term basis, but I'm not talking just about natural gas, but also connectivity on the electricity grids, future cooperation on the green energy between the countries. But it's much more important that we should think out of the box on the, let's say, interest of each of the countries. And we should even go beyond the region and think much more globally on the issue. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to the security, it could not be treated on a country-by-country basis. So from that perspective, the bilateral cooperation between the United States and European Union and the countries in the region is important. But first of all, we should do on a regional basis our homework to be much more better prepared. We have already started, but we should not lose the momentum in that respect.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll come back with more conversation on the infrastructure, which is also very substantial. Mr. Mehmet, I would like to ask you the following. Given, the very turbulent, let's say, relationship between Greece and Turkey, do you see any possibility in the near future of, setting up a particular formula that the entire region could benefit from when it comes to energy projects in the Eastern Mediterranean? I mean, every now and then, the headlines on the news are another clash, might be verbal and not military, thank God, between, Greece and Turkey. And I was wondering, now that Chevron has announced that, they want to explore the seabed in the area below Crete in order to figure out whether there is more wealth, how will Turkey embrace this situation?
Well, media loves such stories, confrontation, clashes, animosity built on historical precedent. And I think one sentence which sums up what I would like to say is cooperation and partnership is not optional. It is a necessity. In today's world, interdependence between nations, uniting infrastructure, institutional trust, and promote relationship is a competitive advantage. We are in a new era of energy world being reshaped. Trump's global dominance strategy, rolling back globalization, as well as climate change. Even in US government websites now, climate change reference has been removed. EU Green Deal now is going to be relaxed because EU is losing its competitiveness vis-à-vis China and the US. And we are not only talking about fossil fuels now, although Trump is emphasizing drill, baby, drill. So more shale gas, shale oil production, hydrocarbons, as you mentioned, near Crete, there is a new finding. In Black Sea, Turkey discovered more than 700 BCM of natural gas. How realistic they are, because I work in the fossil fuel industry as a managing director of British Gas and many other IEA for long years, I always take with a pinch of salt all these discoveries and estimations. You have to do it in order to attract investors. But if it is true, there is a dichotomy again, because most of the investment dollars are going to renewable and efficiency technologies. 2/3 until recently. Let's see how it's going to change. So more than almost $27 trillion a year in global energy is going to renewables. So there will be I think, a crash in fossil fuel investment. If we don't invest more, we will have serious problems. We always forget the fact that almost 80% of world's energy is fossil fuels. It's not going to change in the foreseeable future. Although we want greener energy as much as possible, new hydrogen corridors, not only natural gas corridors. But coming back to Greek-Turkish relationship, I think it already started. Now, thanks to collaboration between the two countries and Azerbaijan, Caspian gas is moving through Turkey to Greece and then to Europe. There's also electricity interconnectors being upgraded, and I'm hoping that there will be more and more projects, wind energy projects, offshore perhaps, in the agency. In EastMed, Turkey, Greece, Israel, Egypt, Cyprus will be working together, not out of will, but out of necessity. If you want to mobilize these resources, which is desperately needed, because energy is our lifeline, whether we like each other or not, whether history tells us that there will be more adversary confrontation, we have to collaborate, and there is no other option. It's not luxury. Therefore, I believe that we will have greater cooperation when things settle a bit, Russia-Ukraine war, whether we are going to have a peace, some sort of peace, whether in EastMed there will be more cooperation than confrontation. Perhaps we will have a sort of Mediterranean green pact, green energy pact between Turkey, Greece, Cyprus, Egypt, Syria now coming to the picture. Probably they have as much natural gas reserves as Egypt has. Zohr and Nur fields, the biggest in Mediterranean. So with a new government in Syria, if it can be engaged into international energy community, we'll have more resources there. So I think if drill, baby, drill will continue, we'll have more discoveries and more utilization of gas, oil. Let's not forget also critical minerals and rare earth, which are, in my view, new oil. And now we are talking about dependence on Russia, how is it affecting us in a negative way because of excessive dependence. But now we depend heavily on China, 60% of rare earth in the world in China, almost 80% of critical minerals. Refining capacity, 90%. This will create another line of dependency. Therefore, we shouldn't perhaps fear of dependency so much, so long as it is interdependent relationship. And otherwise, I think it is going to be down the hill and more chaos, more conflict in the future if we want to be pessimistic. But if we want to see glass is half full, there is a lot to be done. And if EU gets into picture, if US gets into picture, especially in terms of relationship between Turkey and Greece, I think with also sound, pragmatic leaders in both capitals, not often we have that, I think there will be more work. We have to let also private sector take the lead. If we leave it only to the governments and political leaders, they love to have confrontation adversaries. But people-to-people dialogue, private sector putting money into projects, this makes the dependency more viable and more mutually beneficial.
Not to be very hopeful, but there has been some sort of, progressive dialogue between the two countries for the past year and a half. So let's see where this will take us. Ms. Galli, of course, your comment on the recent situation with the development with Chevron, but I would also like to ask you, when we are referring to energy security, do we refer only to the diversification of the sources, or also the security that is related to, the grid, and the fact that the grid should be stable when it comes to renewables? But let's start with Chevron first.
Thank you. So first of all, let me say that with respect to the announcement on Chevron, this falls in a general evolution toward understanding the role that natural gas is going to play for the mid-long term as one of the pillars of the energy transition. So yes, it is an hydrocarbon, but yes, it's of course much different to promote the development of natural gas regionally than of course oil and coal that we are all phasing out. So I see this development positively, not only because increased security of supply, you have your own gas, but positively in the sense that falls within a more pragmatic and realistic approach toward a, let's say, stable and reliable and affordable energy transition. Having said that, I think I can only agree about the role of cooperation. Let me be concrete in terms of cooperation. Of course, as a network, by definition, we cooperate with all the partners with which we are interconnected. And let's say, as the gas network operator in Greece, we are connected with Turkey, we are connected with Bulgartransgaz, we are connected now with Gastrade. And let me say that in concrete terms, in the last few years, all together with, let's say, our partners on this stage, very significant progresses have been made. I remember at the beginning of the gas crisis in 2022, let's say, our system was able to transport and export to Bulgaria physically approximately 2 billion cubic meters of natural gas. And when the crisis exploded with Mr. Malinov, we were really, let's say, even interrupting maintenance to guarantee that the flows was not interrupted. Now we have a situation in which, with the investment of Gastrade, the investment that we are making and completing within this year, and the investment that, of course, also Bulgartransgaz is doing, in a matter of, and we are talking 3 years, and we are not talking 30 years, the import and export capacity of Greece has already reached, at the end of 24, approximately, let's say, 5 billion cubic meter between ICGB and the traditional interconnection. And by the end of this year, it will reach 8.5 billion cubic meter. And we are talking about investment where we sum up the investment of the 3 companies, which is well above 1 billion euro. And all being done and executed in a matter of very few years. So I think that, and I like to hear about the importance of the cooperation in the public sector, in the private sector. We are all, let's say, private or semi-private companies, and we have shown in concrete terms how cooperating in making infrastructure development can really change the shape of the face of the security of supply in this region. And very briefly about what you said, I think, and I keep repeating it whenever I have the possibility to talk, is that we always look at security of supply, of course, in the context of interruption of one supply sources of natural gas. But we also have to consider that when we are today, we are having gas is here to produce heat and electricity. So what it matters is that we need the power, the light, the electricity to operate. And in this moment, more and more, we see that with the increase of renewables, that of course we welcome to support the decarbonization, we see an increase of natural gas utilization. And the reason is very simple. There is no alternative to be able to replace the wind when the wind goes down, or the sun when the sun sunsets every day, than dispatchable natural gas power plants. And that's how Greece has supported export of electricity from last summer to the, let's say, the broader southeast region. And that's why we see a strong push toward new CCGT in Greece being developed, because there is a concrete business need and business opportunity to integrate, let's say, interruptible renewables with dispatchable natural gas. And this is another dimension of security. That is, if we don't have gas coming in when the wind stops blowing, we will have a blackout. And this has been a bit underestimating over the years, but more and more the power producers, we realize they are putting a lot of effort and acceleration in integrating their dispatchable fleet with CCGTs.
Don't you think that there is a lot to improve when it comes also to storing the energy when it is available?
Oh, for sure, let's say the big game changer will be to be able to store energy on the longer term. We are not yet there, apart for gas that can be stored underground. So for the time being, again, storage of LNG and storage of underground natural gas. When it comes to seasonal, and for us a season is also the summer. Let's not only think about the season as the winter, cold, and the heating. In this moment, we still have to rely a lot on molecules to be stored. We don't have storage. Bulgaria has storage. Italy has a lot of storage, and thanks to the interconnection like TAP, and of course our historic interconnection with Bulgaria, we can access the storage capacity of our neighboring countries, and this has created a lot of stability also to the prices in Greece in the last years.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Sifnaios, in similar fashion, I would like your comment on the recent development with Chevron and then the situation in the Eastern Mediterranean and Greece when it comes to system integration.
Thank you. And it's always good to be the last in the panel because you already know what the others said, so you don't have to repeat them. Okay, and with Gladys and Maria, we've been working together for the last 4 years. So I think we have established a great cooperation and understanding. I would like to give a kind of a different perspective in the sense of energy security and trying to do that in the context of the wider region. We are not looking at the markets in Southeast and Central Europe are relatively small when you look at them isolated, but if you actually look at them as a whole, the entire region is a quite wide region. So we need to look, as we look into the future, into these markets as a whole and try to establish the way and the interconnectivity to supply these markets. And I don't know if these things work, but I don't know, but I'll skip them probably. Well, it's there. Well,
Works.
it works. So I'm just trying to put that in the wider context. And you see that the wider context says that natural gas, it's still going to be a growing part of the energy and will be 25% of the share of energy in the world going forward. Of course, most of this is coming through the emerging markets, but if we also look into Europe, and we look kind of mid-term, so next 5 years, consumption of gas remains stable, but on the other hand, what is really growing is the use of LNG. And let's try to also understand the role of the U.S. in LNG, because it's quite relevant to your question, as U.S. is becoming more and more a strategic partner of the region in terms of supply of gas. And as you can see from there, LNG production in the next 4 years is going to increase almost by 65–70%. And out of this increase, 2/3 is going to come from U.S. production. So we need to understand how this narrative with regards to the role of U.S. gas, so U.S. gas in the form of LNG, plays into our region. And this is where the Chevron case also comes. Although, I'll make a parenthesis here, a good friend used to be in Gaz de France, Suez, and then worked for Cheniere, said that the main issue with finding gas in subsea deep fields is how do you actually transport it and what you do with it. So I think when we look at the Chevron case, we need to think of how this gas could possibly be monetized in the region. And definitely we are not looking over the next 5 years. So if this gas comes through, that will be post-2030. So let's see what's happening until then. And let's see that in European supply today, the majority of the supply, that's very recent, that's 2024, the majority of gas coming into Europe, supplying Europe, is from LNG. And that has shifted because 2021, 40% was Russian gas. Yep. Now it's only 11%, 10%. And coming back to the wider region, when we look at the wider region, Southeast and Southeast and Central Europe, you can see, and I think that's associated also with what Maria said, where we were, where we are now, which is actually recovering, and what is expected to be the market in 2030. So we see that there is a gap to bridge between now and 2030 of almost 16 to 17 BCM, and that's without phasing out the Russian gas. That's basically with the existing supply of Russian gas in the region. So this is also a part of the energy security. How do we cover this gas? And I think what we're trying to say is Greece now has an important role to play in covering this gas through imports of LNG, because that's really the main source for bridging this. And this is providing energy security also through diversification of sources.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Malinov.
If you allow me to elaborate just a few thoughts on what was mentioned by the
and
by
if
my
we can
colleagues.
keep the chart also available on
keep
the screen.
Chart.
Yeah.
So my message should be that there is partially to disagree with Kostis, but also to support his thoughts. I do believe that there is a good space for each and every elephant in the room. What that means. So the chart is showing that the natural gas consumption or demand will stay on a European Union territory stable for the upcoming decades. But we should look much more specific to our region. And I do expect that our broader region will have a significant increase of the demand of natural gas. Several facts to support that. First of all, the Green Deal on the Balkan region and further beyond is going to be supported, which means that in the case of Bulgaria, but not just Bulgaria or the Balkan region, the lignite or the coal-fired power plants needs to be replaced. And they could be replaced not just by the renewables, but for the balancing of the system, electricity system, and a constant flow, which was mentioned by Maria, sunsets, not blowing wind, we will need gas-fired power plants. That's for sure. Replacing coal and turning to gas. Secondly, of course, the terrible war in Ukraine will be over, so it could not last for decades. And I do believe that it will be over even in this year. The real figures are showing that even today, Ukraine is consuming 21 billion cubic meters of natural gas with a significant drop of the consumption, more than 60%, because before the war, Ukraine was consuming like 45 billion cubic meters. And they will start recovering. So the demand on both, stepping on both that pillars will increase. And that's the reason there is room in each of the big, small elephants there. The US LNG, also the production, potentially Chevron, the discoveries around Creta, one of my favorite islands, or my favorite in Greece. Also the Black Sea exploration and proven from a reserves perspective, but not proven how much are extractable from that reserves. But also in Bulgaria, we are doing a lot, and there is a huge interest of renewing the interest of the big players on the market to invest on exploration, also on our part of the Black Sea, Neptune in the Romanian offshore, which is mentioned. So there's a good potential, there will be a demand. So from that perspective, we are doing our business. We are preparing the infrastructure, working together, as I said, not losing the momentum, keeping ahead, and maybe last sentence from my side, to be competitive. To be competitive because our region, we should work and have like a fist together, because other regions in Europe are also working in that respect, and they are going to fight with us for the same market. So from a price perspective, we should be competitive, and we should think much more proactively in that direction about decreasing the prices and decreasing the percentage of the logistic costs, the transportation costs, to the commodity, bringing them to the final users.
Mm-hmm. And taking into account the concept of competitiveness, but also the need to maintain a long-term sustainability when it comes to energy security, but also affordability of energy. In your opinion, which are the strategic investments that the region should prioritize in the future?
I think one thing, as you mentioned, in Black Sea, for example, Neptune, Bulgarian fields, and the Turkish Samsun fields, and further down in East Black Sea. And I think there is every reason why these countries, excluding Russia perhaps, Ukraine, Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, should be working together. Economies of scale, joint development, and sharing the benefits of that. This also brings a collaborative approach. The same could be done in the Aegean Sea between Turkey and Greece, and in East Med. So there is potential there. However, I mean, the current environment in which we find ourselves, connectivity has been seriously disrupted. We see the high tariffs, trade tariffs coming up, climate change pushback, and deglobalization is gaining strength, and then more and more geopolitical clashes and confrontations. And we should also not forget, we are talking, when we mention connectivity, we only talk about the pipelines, electrical grids, LNG carriers, or FSRUs, and you name it. Whereas digital connectivity is critically important for energy. And last year only, Turkish Cybersecurity Agency disrupted almost 1.3 intrusions into the energy system. So cybersecurity is becoming a clear vulnerability for many countries involved. While I have the microphone, let me say a few words about Turkish energy security concerns, which will be, of course, reflected to other nations around Turkey. Turkey depends, excluding this Black Sea findings, 98% imports of natural gas. 98. Domestic production provides only 2%. In oil, 95, 96%. Coal, 50%. In renewables, you depend all this, technology and finance coming from outside the country. If you depend so heavily on imported sources for energy and connectivity, you don't feel secure in terms of energy, in terms of sovereignty, your national security. Because it's a national security matter for countries like Turkey or, for that matter, China and India, where dependency is even higher, or Japan. Therefore, if we don't overcome these issues, obstacles in terms of connectivity, no nation will feel secure in isolation. So there is all the more reason why we should unite, merge our infrastructure, institutional governance, and political relationship out of necessity, not because we love each other.
And thank you very much. One final comment from Ms. Galli when it comes to prioritizing investment in the foreseeable future.
Well, let me just think that we have an interconnection agreement that needs to be signed with Botosh to allow the free trade of gas between Greece and Bulgaria that is expected to be signed since more than 10 years. And we are with the pen ready. So let me say that, of course, many things could be done. Now, in terms of prioritization of investments, again, in this moment, we are running to complete the investment plan. The majority of the investment in compressor units that will enable the gas to flow north-south and east-west will be completed within this year, together with the expansion of the grid to new areas like West Macedonia. What will be the next wave of pipelines investment in terms of natural gas, I'm saying, will be in strengthening the northern part of the countries, where a lot of gas-fired generation is coming up, and expanding also in Peloponnese, so complete the development of the gas grid. In doing that, of course, our priority is to ensure that, let's say, either it is slowed down a bit or not, the energy transition will come, and we want our investment to be adaptable to the future, and so we are focusing on investment that are all, let's say, hydrogen ready with respect to the ability in the future to transport the different molecules. And we are also working very intensively over two new fronts. On one side, promoting the development of hydrogen will take time, but we already have a common project with Bulgaria for an hydrogen backbone and interconnection point for the future. We are working with Germany, together with Austria, Italy, and Greece to exploit in the short term also the Italian corridor for Greek hydrogen potential production to be exported. And also, and this is an important pillar of energy, of, let's say, industrial competitiveness, working on how to make a viable carbon capture and sequestration industry, let's say, see the light also in Greece, because to the extent even more so that, let's say, fossil fuels will remain longer, carbon capture and sequestration will be one of the tools. I never think that there is going to be one solution fits all, but each building block is important, and CCS is an important building block for the industry to remain in Europe and maintain affordable cost while meeting emission reduction targets.
Okay, let's see where we will be next year, because you know the world is shifting in a very fast pace. Thank you all for this conversation. We've run out of time. Hopefully we'll have you in Greece next year too.
Could I say just one final word?
I mean, it's up to you. You know,
Yes.
time has run out already.
I think
they might invade the room. I don't know.
For energy, connectivity, investment, and security, we need 3 T's. Trust, trust, trust. If you don't have it, nothing will happen.
And treaties. Thank you.